Christine's previewing the May round of NHRL on this episode of Outside of the Box.
If you pull a half-baked brownie together and a half-baked chocolate chip cookie together, you've got like a really nice dessert there.
When we started going to NHRL, you stood right next to the cage. Every single person at the event made a circle around the cage, and you could show up at the event essentially without a robot and like throw something together at your pit table, and it was plausible that you could win. That has been completely flipped on its head.
Battle Tots is going to be a twist this event. It's actually going to be me and Tim Hebert from Chubby Unicorn. I don't know that we fully decided who's driving which bot yet. We're just going to have to like arm wrestle on Friday and figure it out.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And today I have one of my favorite guests, period. And that's saying a lot because, I mean, I've done over 200 episodes, but I have Gwen. And Gwen, my first question is, who's going to win 3 pounds at May NHRL, and why is it Jackalope?
Well, it's simply because I'm coming backalope and I've got a lot to do.
That's what I like to hear.
No, yeah, I've had a lot of time. Unfortunately, I made it to second place on the April waitlist. Second place. So I've had a lot of time to just kind of sit on my hands and just plan on things and entertain every bad idea that I've had for the last 60 days. And I cannot wait to see how many of these little tricks that I've got up my sleeve pay off in May.
You know what? The best bad ideas often turn into good ideas, in my experience. So, you know, why not?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait. Like, by the time that finals rolls around, like, Jackalope is just going to be like an amalgam of just horrible, awful, half-baked ideas. But like, if you pull a half-baked brownie together and a half-baked chocolate chip cookie together, you've got like a really nice dessert there. So like, I think 2 half bad ideas can probably make at least one pretty good robot.
Sure. That's definitely a way to go with that. Now, the last time out, you know, Jackalope did pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I had a nice time. I enjoyed that very, very much.
By the end of the night, you weren't like, can I just be done because it's been a long day? Or you were like let's take it all the way. I don't care if this takes until 1 a.m. I'm getting that duster.
Like I'm going. It's, I mean, the most apt metaphor I could think of. Like I always think back to the Energizer Bunny. Like that was genuinely my nickname on my soccer team in high school because I would just keep running and just that same energy of like, you know, we're doing it. We're going to keep doing it. We're just going and going and going. Like, you got to keep that up with everything you do. I think it makes it so much more infectiously joyful when you have people that feed back into it too.
That doesn't really surprise me a bit, honestly. So, now, I mean, have you really done, like, what all have you done with Jackalope since that, you know, leading into this to kind of push you over the edge?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I'm sure some folks who've listened to this and other shows and talked to me in the last couple months know, like, after January mass destruction, I drove home and literally the next day spent the entire day in Fusion revamping Jackalope from the ground up. Since then, like, that has more or less been the version of Jackalope that, like, it fought at Moto, it fought at March NHRL, and more or less that same version will be fighting at May. The main tweaks that I've done, like, there's some more robust electronics inside. I've changed out from the switches that I've been using to an experimental switch that Kazaya ran in Chainsaw Kitty during their dumpster run. So I like to think that the switch is probably an upgrade. I've got a couple more streamlined electronics inside, diversifying out like my failure points so that it's not as much of a one hit and done situation. I've also changed out my bottom plate for slightly thicker and tougher material. So I'm hoping that I can kind of reclaim a little bit of durability. I always think back to after the very first fight that I ever had with Jackalope against Chubby Unicorn at MASD back in August of 2024. I remember just getting punted around for the full 3 minutes. And afterwards, Ariel from Pandamonium came up to me and was like, that thing is built like a tank. And like, I need to just reclaim a bit of that tankiness, because I feel like that counterpunch fight has kind of haunted me since then. Like, I've probably watched that fight over and over again enough times to make up the length of an entire primetime stream. So like, we're coming back. It'll be okay.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because, I mean, I've talked to so many different builders about the fact that this is your first robot. And I mean, realistically, it hasn't been in that many competitions and it's already doing so good. I mean, you qualified in a very short period of time.
Yeah. It's insane
what do you attribute your secret to that? Like, what is the secret sauce for let's get this robot like winning very quickly?
I'm still kind of trying to pin down exactly what it is. I think a very big part of it has been I'm getting a lot better at asking for help. And a lot of people have been incredibly forthcoming with either like little design reviews or, hey, maybe look at this thing, or, oh, don't do it that way, try it this way. Like I've talked obviously a lot with the Team Defective folks. Now I'm on Team Defective, and of course I get way more design reviews now, like just constantly day by day with that too. But like I talked to like Paige from Jelly Baby. I talked to a lot of the Pandemonium folks. Matt Landry was actually a very big like early advisor of like the Jackalope project, to put it really dramatically. Like a lot of people from a lot of different teams, a lot of different just parts of the community have all kind of contributed to Jackalope in some way. And like I think that if I was doing it completely by myself, not having anybody else to look at or any other CAD to kind of reference off of or any people to ask feedback from or bounce ideas off of, I don't think that it would have been nearly as good of a run at March. Not to mention the pit help that I had from Paige or from my good friend Russell or any of the honestly, yeah, any of the Panda folks or the Team Defective folks especially. So like it's all just going back to this idea of like Jackalope's a group project, and the community just kind of came together little bits at a time and helped me figure stuff out.
The bot itself may be a group project, but one thing that has consistently come up is other builders remarking on how amazing of a driver you are. So I don't think that we can like not talk about that, which it's my understanding that you definitely try and get in practice as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so some folks who know me a little bit might know, like, I live in East Norwalk. I am a 5-minute drive from NHRL. And as somebody who's also been like an employee of NHRL for a while, I have access to the building. So like I have the immense privilege of being able to just go to the cages after work and just drive around for as long as I want, really. Like you might be able to see literally behind me on my coffee table here, there's a bunch of little tiny traffic cones that I use to set up little driving courses for myself, either in a cage where I try to do like little back and forth exercises, or I'll set up like I'll take the weapon off and then just do like a little driving course in like a parking garage or something, just anything to get more stick time in. It's massively like I'm very lucky in that sense. Another thing that I think has helped with that a lot is the fact that I have my transmitter set up so that it's essentially the same controls as the house bots, which I have a lot of stick time on at this point. So sometimes when you see Jackalope like putting somebody just up on their nose just so, or flipping them over or making them do the thing, it's just taking all of that house bot driving for evil instead of for good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that some people would argue that the house bots can be evil, for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. Sorry, Jake. My bad.
um Now, one thing, I always have to ask, but if we're thinking about the upcoming event in May and the robots that are coming, I'm sure that you've looked at the list. I mean, are there any robots that stand out as either you would love to have a fight with, a certain robot, or you would rather avoid a certain robot?
Yeah. So a very, I don't know if I'd call it a fun fact, but a fact nonetheless. Um, on the Friday before the March event, I actually had a nightmare that I fought hammer saws, and it was a nightmare for me because I had weighed my top armor going into that event, and like I was like something crazy, like 3 ounces overweight, and it was just like this horrible thing. It was like the day before the event. I was like, oh no, like everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Like I'm not going to be able to run top armor. I'm going to have to figure something out in the morning. I don't know how to do it. I'll figure it out. But especially because the previous version V1 had actually, the last thing that I did for Jackalope V1 was make new top armor, and it went full 3 minutes, didn't take any damage against Boink, which was insane. So I was like, oh, I could just copy that same idea over, and it was way heavier. So fools, serves me right for not doing my homework, I guess. So this time I have pretty robust top armor. It's a different concept that I'm not sure I've seen somebody do quite exactly how I have it. A couple folks saw it when I had it set up for a grudge or two in March, but it hasn't actually seen a proper hammer saw yet. So I'm excited to see how that works out. I do have a way that I can still use the previously very overweight config in case I absolutely need to. But there's definitely a lot of robots that I'm just generally excited to see. There's plenty of there's actually a lot of like friends that I'm seeing at this event again that'll be really nice. I think :3, of course, is just like fun. I've been watching that bot get developed from like the plant from WPI into now Dawn doing her full 3, and I'm very excited to see how that works out. I'd like to fight basics if I had the opportunity. Donald and I went to the same college, and we are kind of in the same like circles every so often with like, I hang out with some panda people. He sometimes hangs out with defective people, and like I see him at events all the time, and it'd be really cool to actually fight him. But like, gosh, I have the list open and now I'm looking again. Oh, one that I would love to fight, absolutely. I'd like to round out the Papazian trilogy. I've fought Turbo Fiend twice. I've fought Turbo Friend once in a unsanctioned, unofficial charity match at a fundraiser at NHRL. And I have Turbo Friend's wheel in my little trophy case now. But I've never fought Mako. And I would love to fight Mako.
Well, I'm sure Julian is watching this. So there you go. There you go, Julian.
See you soon, Shark Boy.
I know Julian, and I have no doubt that he would also love to fight your robot.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people at events to just like riff with, hang out with, talk smack to, get talked smack from. Like he's great. Dima too. Like the two of them are just incredibly riffable. I actually, before the March event, I DM'd Julian, and I was like, hey, I just saw my group. I have Jelly Baby in my group. She beat me pretty handily at Motorama. I'm not sure if I could do it again if I have to face her in this group. Can I borrow a Mako arm? And he gave me like an entire Mako arm with the saw and the motor and the ESC all attached. He was like, hey, here you go. Do you actually want? Yeah, sure. You just hold on to that if you want. So now I've got just like this bright green shark hanging out in my toolbox, and I just use it when I'm like trying to get in people's heads. And I was halfway through building up Backalope, and Paige saw me doing it because she was pitted across from me at March before our match. And she starts assembling a Jelly Baby with top armor on it. And at one point, Julian comes up and he's like, hey, are you going to like tell her that you're not actually running that, because you should probably tell her. But I don't know. He's great. Paige is great. I don't know. I love the people in this community, and I'd be happy with just about anyone, honestly.
I mean, sharks and rabbits, like who hasn't already thought to like splice that DNA and
name a better combination. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Exactly. It would be nature's most fierce predator or something. But yeah, I think that definitely would be a fun matchup. There's certainly, I think, a lot of potential for sure. Now, depending, I mean, well, not necessarily depending, but no matter whatever happens in May, are you going to keep bringing Jackalope back as much as you can, or are you planning on taking a longer rest before finals?
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, I'm planning on like fighting as much as I can. Like the qualification is great. I'm over the moon about that. But the idea of Jackalope is fighting robots is fun, and I want to do it as much as possible. So like, excuse me, I've already signed up for like Voxel Mania over Memorial Day. In July, I'm going to be taking a trip down to the Hive for Hive Hysteria. If another Mass D event pops up, I'll probably make it to one of those again. I love Mass D events. They're so much fun. And it'd be nice to finally win a fight at one. But yeah, I'm absolutely planning on fighting as much as I possibly can. I do still have to like keep my head on straight and like make sure that I'm planning ahead for finals, especially. I have pretty much like a little stockpile of components between like the hub motors, the drive motors, other things that I think will be generally hard to source otherwise, that I'm pretty much just putting in a locked box until December, because stuff's a little crazy right now. And I don't know what the world's going to look like 6 months from now, 7 months from now. And it would be nice to just make sure that I can at least go into finals with the peace of mind that I don't have to worry about like a supply chain issue hamstringing me. Like I've got enough parts for like 2 more Jackalopes just in my closet. It will stay in my closet. I'm not going to dip into it. And whatever happens between now and December, it's just all fun. It's all learning. And it'll be, we'll see what happens in December.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, dare I say, I think Jackalope's going to be a very strong contender. But that's my personal opinion from what I've seen so far. So we'll see how the rest of the year goes.
Yeah, much appreciated. I mean, like anybody that qualifies is in this field of beetles these days. Like, it's a massive, massive feather in your cap. Like, I think anybody that builds a robot and gets it through safety is always worth taking seriously. Like, I think the worst mistake anybody can make as a combat roboticist is underestimating literally any opponent. But if it's a massive thing to be able to say like, yeah, I came top 4, top 8, even, like, it's incredible. And there's a lot of really formidable folks that are already qualified and that I'm sure are going to keep qualifying throughout the rest of the year. The trick is to just keep throwing curveballs and keep making people second guess and think, oh crap, wait, that's Jackalope now? Oh crap, that's what Mako can do now? So you just gotta, I don't know, entertain the stupid ideas.
Yes, I 100% support this. But I think it's going to be a great event as always. Anything could happen. But I think Jackalope has a pretty good shot. So
thanks very much. We'll see what happens.
yes, for sure. Everyone who is watching, please stay tuned. This is going to be a wild episode. There is a lot more to come. So just keep on watching. All right. So we are back for the next segment in this May preview for NHRL. And I mean, everybody knows that I've been working really hard to have folks on the show this year that have not been on, which arguably is a really difficult thing to do at this point. But I'm so excited, and it's long overdue to have Jim and Andrew Kazmer on the show to talk about Project Liftoff and Deep Melt. So welcome.
We're excited to be here.
Thank you. Very excited to be here. Excited to get back to NHRL and start competing again.
Absolutely. It's crazy to me because I mean, I haven't been following NHRL for as long as some others, but Project Liftoff is one of those, what I would consider legacy bots that have been around since almost the very beginning, which is crazy. But I think that's attributed to it being such a unique and really awesome design. So I think the first thing that I want to talk about before I kind of get into May, as you know, Jim, because we've talked a little bit about this, is just for folks, there's a lot of people that ask about meltybrains and like, how does it work? What is this? Why do people make these? And so I really would love to get more insight from both of you on that, just for those that don't really know.
All right. Well, the whole idea behind a meltybrain is, in a sense, it's the simplest bot you could build. There's only two motors, one for each wheel. So you just have two wheels that make the entire bot spin. It's a true full body spinner. It's not a ring spinner, not a shell spinner. It's not a horizontal. It is a horizontal in the sense that it's spinning in a horizontal manner. But the concept that it's the simplest bot you can build is like a lure to get you kind of sucked into it, because it is one of the hardest bots to build. Not only do you have the mechanical build, but you also have an electronics build and a software build. And so that makes it a bit harder than your typical bot. But the other reason why people think it's a great type of bot to build is you have the entire weight of the bot is your weapon. You have the full momentum, inertia, the full energy of the spinning bot as power for the weapon. Andrew, you want to add to any of that?
Yeah, and that's why we jumped into it initially. We'd been building like little combat robots, just competing against my buddy from home, not going to any events. And I think it was my freshman or sophomore year of college. It's like 2018. NHRL had just started up, and saw the event, saw the first one or two events, decided to build a bot for it because it was close enough to us, and found these water jet rings of aluminum. And so they're just somebody's castaway parts. Had a buddy weld them up for us. And Project Liftoff, this is funny. Very few people know this. The reason Project Liftoff is named Project Liftoff is because initially it was going to be a flipper. And it was going to be a flipper powered by like 22 caliber blanks was the idea. This is really early NHRL. There were effectively no rules. You were allowed to do whatever you wanted. I didn't get very far with that and pivoted to a melty when I found those water jet rings. And we just built the melty, and it took a couple events for my dad, Jim, to really get pulled into it. But once he got on the project, that's when we really got rolling.
So, if it wasn't for NHRL, Project Liftoff wouldn't exist. Before NHRL, there was no place in New England that held regular events. And because of that, we never got into combat robotics because there was just no opportunity for us to compete. So a big shout out to NHRL. Project Liftoff wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have had all the fun that we've had over the years going to the events. If I can't thank them enough for creating that venue and hosting so many tournaments.
Yeah, 100%. We definitely cannot underscore how much NHRL has done for the sport. Even though it's located very conveniently for a lot of people, not all of us, but we still make the trek to get out there because it's a really cool place to be. Now, you've definitely had many iterations of this robot, including larger versions, which I think is really cool as people tend to scale up. I'm curious if there's anything specific for a Melty that makes like scaling it up a challenge, or it may be less of a challenge. You know, I'm just curious about that process.
I think we might have different answers here. It's largely theoretical for us because we clearly have not solved Big Melty. My initial rip would be that energy density in brushless motors does not scale linearly with weight, and you get very small motors that can produce a lot of watts, and relative to larger motors have much more surface area and can therefore dissipate a lot more heat. And so that small Melty that we have can output, almost 2 horsepower when we're really pushing it. But as you scale to these bigger Melties, it's more horsepower, not as much surface area proportionally, and it just becomes a very hard problem. And you can never overcome traction and the total normal force being the weight of the robot. There are a lot of advantages to it being smaller, bottom line.
Yeah. One interesting thing that I'm finally, after 5 years or even 6 working on this thing, that to me, it might sound obvious, but just like every other combat robot, traction is key. Without traction, you got nothing. Without traction, you're not going to be able to spin up. But ironically, and this plays into what Andrew just explained, you need to have a Melty that can break traction so you don't burn out the motors. If you're using direct drive brushless motors to make the Melty spin, then if your motor can get pinned and stalled, you're going to burn it out. And so you have to have a motor that offers enough torque and power to break traction. At the same time, if you're breaking traction all the time, you're not going to spin up, right? And so we've been kind of playing that, trying to figure out the magic between always, having a bot that always is at traction and yet accelerating. And so that's kind of at the cusp of where we're at in our development. Is we're about to crack that for the 3-pounder with traction control. We haven't quite cracked it for the heavier bots because, as I said, it gets expensive, and you can tend to burn out motors and ESCs as you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I could imagine that you would. And that kind of leads into me asking, you've obviously built some other types of robots before you got into doing Project Liftoff. How is it to drive and operate this type of robot versus other types of robots? For anybody that's interested or has thought about, I'm going to go ahead and build a Melty, what kind of challenges may they foresee in that piece of it, with going with a Melty versus other things?
So I'll probably start with this one. What I will say, having driven Project Liftoff for 6 years, is that it is easier now to drive Project Liftoff than it has ever been. But as you step through the stages of Melty development and you get closer to what I would call like perfect Melty, which is your heading never moves, right? Like the lights on the front of the robot that indicate which direction is forward, those stay in a consistent direction, they don't drift. Your drift control, that is the direction where you push the stick, the bot mimics the direction that you're actually pushing the stick. There's not like a angle shift associated. Right now we're very close to that, and so the bot moves consistently. When I press forward, it starts moving. It goes in the direction I ask it to move, and the heading doesn't shift. Prior to all 3 of those, there was it becomes guesswork. It's an art as much as a science, because there's so much code going on. Sometimes I could like spur the bot to move if I pulse the stick in a certain way. I could start nudging it and you'd build a harmonic and it would start going in a
Well, my belief
direction.
that had to do with traction. So Andrew kind of
Sure.
manually was doing his own traction control and he learned it, and he kind of empirically figured out, oh, this is how I can make it move faster and turn faster. And now the software is trying to lock into that. So it's more, you just push it and it goes wherever you want. Our initial version, we actually had it where we had a nice light and we had it aligned and it stayed stable. But instead of just pushing the joystick to the left to make it go to the left, I had Andrew have to turn the LED to the left and then go forward. And that was pure, it's kind of a journey. And we didn't really investigate what other people were doing. We kind of invented it all on our own, which made us take a lot longer than, mimicking other good melty-brains out there.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it can be a challenge, and it's a very iterative process. I mean, all combat robotics is, but I think some robots lend itself more to that than others, for sure. Now, for this event upcoming in May, I saw that you're going to have Project Liftoff as well as Deep Melt. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about differences between both of those robots and kind of what you're expecting from them going into the event.
So Deep Melt is pretty much a copy of Project Liftoff mechanically. I mean, the electronics are the same, the ESCs, maybe I'll use a different brand of ESCs, but pretty much functionally the same. The motors are the same. The body is the same, just a different color. The only difference is we flip a switch and we put the controller down and we let the software kind of drive itself. So there's some software in there. And the very first version of Deep Melt that actually, it had a winning record its first time out. The entire logic that made it do its autonomous self-driving fit on one screen in C++. Just one screen of code, like 5 different if statements. The current code is closer to 3 screens, but it isn't that elaborate. It's trying to be a little bit smarter. The version in May is going to be able to kind of say, oh, that's a wall over there. Let's not go any closer. And so it's going to start using the information it has from its sensors to kind of know, to guess, oh, there's my opponent. And instead of maybe hitting them head on, maybe I'll try to slide in from the side, kind of do a spiral in, try to drive around behind him and then come forward. So I'm kind of working on that stuff right now for Deep Melt.
Yeah, what I would say about the first version of Deep Melt, and it's funny, and had people known this at the time, I think they could have beaten it very badly. The first version, the version that won, had like a 3-2 record. It was probability based. The assumption that we made was essentially, if you run away from everything for 5 to 10 seconds, you're probably in the middle of the arena. And then if you're in the middle of the arena, the closest thing to you is probably the opponent. So you're going to run away from everything for 10 seconds, and then you're going to lunge. And so if we had run away for 10 seconds and they stayed in a corner, we would lunge at a wall. But I think with people not knowing that, it works. And now that we revealed that, obviously that probably never works again.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. now I have to get that code working where I could discern a wall from the opponent.
That's okay.
Yeah, there you go, revealing all of the secrets.
Big secret right there.
Now, yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be really exciting. Have you had a chance to look at the field for May? I mean, is there any robots that you're potentially excited getting to compete against or get matched up against?
Andrew tends to be the strategist, so I'm going to let him answer that one.
Oh, I closed it right before this meeting. I got to pull it back up. I am very excited to get back to May. I'm hoping that I can make the trip. Unfortunately, it's still uncertain for me whether or not I can be there. But it's an exciting opportunity for Jim to get some driving practice. What I will say, I wish we had a 30 for May, because it looks like a very fun 30 field. Another thing I noticed, I don't know how far you made it down, Jim. There's a hovercraft melty registered for May. I've been unable to find any information about it.
At what weight class?
At 3 pounds.
Wow.
It is a college team. It is called Open Hell from Carnegie Mellon Robotics. and it is a hovercraft drive melty, which I believe entitles it to a weight bonus, which is very exciting to see. It's rare that we get a melty team that hasn't put anything out there. What I would say is that melty is like a relatively small community. A lot of people share ideas. There's a Discord server where people kind of bounce ideas off each other, talk shop, show off their progress. And
They're very helpful too.
yeah, and people share code, share electronic schematics, really a lot. Anyways, I haven't seen anything for this bot, so I'm extremely excited to see if it works, because it's very rare to see like a truly unique, out of left field melty show up.
Yeah, so that Discord channel that Andrew's talking about, it's called Hockey Pucks of Death, right? Isn't that the name of it, Andrew?
Yeah, that is correct.
Because when a melty hits, it's a horizontal spinner and equal and opposite forces and all that. It tends to go ricocheting around the arena. So the opponent goes one way and you go flying and banging off walls. And there've been events where we have hit all 4 walls and ricocheting around the arena. But a hovercraft melty brain, it might hit all the walls twice. But yeah, it should be fun to watch.
So what I'm
Kudos to
hearing is that if there's anybody watching this from Carnegie Mellon and you feel like divulging your secrets, please get in the comments.
Well, I'm going to go and
Absolutely.
search them out in May and visit. I'm sure, hopefully they'll visit us too. But yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
Other than that, obviously excited to see all the team WPI teams, all the WPI robots, always a force to be reckoned with. It will be interesting. It is remarkable how much turnover the field has seen. I think some of the changes that we've seen in how Norwalk lets people into events have definitely encouraged new bots to show up. So I'm looking forward to it, because there are less of the regulars that you saw 2 to 3 years ago, and it's a relatively fresh field for May.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to actually ask both of you about, is just in general, like, you've been around NHRL for such a long time and seen lots of changes, both in the tournament and also the type of bots that attend. And I'm just curious what you think about like the changes and the level of innovation that people have gotten to with what these bots look like and what they do. Even in the short time I've watched NHRL, there's so many things that have happened in that regard. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
The polish is remarkable. When we started going to NHRL, Austin announced, you stood right next to the cage. Every single person at the event made a circle around the cage. And you could show up at the event essentially without a robot and like throw something together at your pit table, and it was plausible that you could win a fight, not the whole thing, but you could win a fight or two. And what I will say is that has been completely flipped on its head, and I don't think that the sport has become less accessible. That's the cool part about it. The rising tide raises all boats, or raises all ships, whatever the saying is. Everyone is better, and the information is more available. There are better parts available. Peter, Seth, a whole variety of people are offering like truly like world-class level parts. If you had just the basic like repeat robotics drive motors now, those would have been the best drive motors that anyone at the event had 5 years ago. Like truly, you'd have better drive motors than anyone else, and it's just something you can buy off the shelf now. And so that's really cool. And then the advancements in 3D printing, services like Send Cut Send, all of those things like PCBWay, like all of these services where you can get things CNC manufactured, and then the like various Discord servers where people just share information and share inspiration. It is much easier to build a high level combat robot than it has ever been. And so bottom line, it has not become less accessible, but the average bot is much better than it used to be.
Jim, did you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree with Andrew. It's, as I said earlier, NHRL has been a boon to robotics, combat robotics. I would never have gotten into the sport if they hadn't created that venue. And so, once again, I'm very thankful that they exist, and I appreciate, how close they are to where I live versus, and it's unfortunate there aren't more NHRLs out there around the country hosting events on a regular basis like NHRL. So, it like all sports, the more people play and compete, the better people get. And so as kind of a community, we've upped our game, everybody. And anyone who enters it and starts out, yeah, it's pretty tough competing with these veterans, but they also share. And, just by competing and attending, you can kind of pick up a lot of insights about how to improve your bot, how to make a better bot. So it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. The bar is continually raised and everybody is working together to meet it, which I think is a beautiful thing. And I hope that we obviously continue to see that in our community. Well, I'm so excited to see these bots back at May and see what they can do. I think it's a lot of fun. Actually, last question, because I especially since you have that, that AI component with Deep Melt, I'm actually curious to get your thoughts on a robot like Orbitron at BattleBots. We just had the newer episodes that have come out, and it looked pretty good. It's a really interesting robot, but I'm just curious to get your take on it.
I did not look at Orbitron yet. I been heads down doing a couple of different projects here, so I'll have to look at it and get back to you. Maybe I'll text you.
I have seen
Oh,
it.
good.
I will jump in and say I think that there are certain types of robots that lend themselves very well to AI. And I would not say that a vertical spinner is one of them. But if you are going to make a vertical spinner and you're going to try and integrate AI, put 2 on it. Right? It's the same thing that we do with the Melty, right? Like worst case scenario, if Deep Melt completely fails, the whole thing is dangerous. As long as it's spinning, we're safe. Orbitron, worst case scenario, they probably hit the front, they probably hit the back, they probably hit a spinner. So I think it's the right way to start. I do look forward to seeing continuous advancement, because obviously it's not the optimal bot archetype, right? You don't want 2 spinners. You want one big spinner that spins faster. But until the software gets there, it's the way to go.
Yeah. So our bot Deep Melt, it leverages the fact that we're looking everywhere. Our whole body's spinning. We already had sensors to kind of detect what's in front of us, if there is anything in front of us. And so it's kind of low-hanging fruit building Deep Melt and making, writing a little bit of code, as I said, on top of all the other code that actually makes the bot run. Their effort, they had to add sensors, situational awareness. Where do you aim these sensors? It's a challenge. It's hard. So kudos to them for attempting it. For us, it was just low-hanging fruit. It wasn't that big of a step to take from where we were at. So we talked a little bit about what a melty-brain is. We didn't talk about how to make it move. And so in that video I sent you, there's a second slide that talks about how melty moves. And so a melty basically picks a direction that's forward, and the algorithm is really simple. As the wheel spins toward the direction you want to move, you got to make that wheel spin faster. And the wheel that's moving away from the direction that you want to move, you have to make that wheel spin slower. And so you're doing this every rotation, you're changing the speed of the wheel twice to go faster and then slower. So say your bot's running at 60% power. When you want to move it forward in a direction, you're going to pulse one set of wheels like to 80% power and the other set of wheels down to 40% power. And if you do that in synchrony with your spinning, the bot will move forward. And so the challenge of the software is how good can they write their software so they can sense where they are in their rotation and how good of control do they have of their motors. And so everyone knows that if horizontal spins faster, it has more power. But as that melty-brain spins faster, at 3,000 RPM, the bot is turning around 50 times a second. That means each rotation is taking 20 milliseconds. That means each half rotation is 10 milliseconds, which means you have 10 milliseconds to make the motor go faster. And then the other 10 milliseconds, you're making it spin slower. And that can be challenging. If you don't have that response time where there's a pipeline delay, the bot's not really going to move. So there's an upper limit to how fast a Melty can really spin until technology catches up and further improves and we have better motor controllers.
Yeah, it sounds like a challenge for sure, but obviously, like, you both have worked at it for some time, and have been able to be successful and figure some of these things out. But I'm sure people are going to be really interested to hear about all of this, because I think Melties are like the mysterious type of bot, and there's so many people that want to know more. But yeah, we'll look forward to seeing the bots compete in May. Super exciting about that. And we have more to come on the show. We're going to have Team Pandamonium talking about some of their robots. So stay tuned. Thank you, Jim and Andrew, for joining, and look forward to more.
Thank you, Christine.
All right, and we're back with my last segment, which is usually the biggest segment, and usually involves multiple people. So this is not going to be any different than that, which in this case, it's been a little while, but I have some fine representatives from Team Pandamonium with me, Kevin, Ariel, and Corey, to talk about your many, many robots that you have coming to the May event.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a little while, and I try, I love having y'all on, but I've definitely had you on a lot, so I try and make it for big reasons, and I think that this definitely qualifies for that, with the number of robots. So we're just going to kind of go through and talk about the robots that are coming. Now, some of them are represented by folks who are not on right now, so we'll kind of start there and just maybe talk a little bit about that, which is the 3-pound representatives from Team Pandamonium, which are going to be Basics, Vanguard, and Vapor Trail. I 2 robots that have been done pretty well. I think Vanguard is new, but yeah, so if you want to talk a little bit about what we might be expecting from those bots.
I'm not sure how much is ready to be released about Vanguard, because I'm not sure how complete it is right now. It's something new from these guys. I don't think they've done an undercutter, horizontal, or anything like that yet. It's going to be a bot Baron's Pandemonium bot, so who knows?
Yes, and obviously, like, Johnny bringing Vapor Trail, I think he's itching to get a really good event out of that robot. So I'm sure we'll see big things there. And I know Basics has looked very good this year. So really excited to see what it's gonna do.
Yeah. Why am I drawing a blank? Donald lost to Lars, who ended up winning the last event. So I mean, Basics is pretty solid. It's a very impressive robot, and it's pretty intimidating and scary. I think Donald does a very great job at navigating that robot around the cage, both hitting the opponent and the house robot from time to time, but he still keeps on kicking.
And
Yeah.
Johnny's doing great with Vapor Trail. He's keeps showing us, because every time he brings it back, there's just something else done and something else done, and he's just edging towards that like perfect qualification.
Yeah, for sure. Iteration is, as we know, pretty key in combat robotics. So excited to see what it does. So we'll go ahead and move on to the 12 pounds, which we're going to be seeing Battle Tots, of course, and we're also going to be seeing Torrent and Corey's 12-pounder as well. So let's talk about all of that.
I'm really excited to hear what Corey's going to say about his 12-pounder because not even our team knows fully what it is. And we're actually playing a round of 20 questions to try to get it out of him.
I'll give it away. But are you excited to be able to drive Froggy in Battle
Oh, well, okay, so Battle Tots is going to be a twist this event. It's actually going to be me and Tim Hebert from Chubby Unicorn driving Battle Tots. And I don't know that we fully decided who's driving which bot yet. We're just going to have to like arm wrestle on Friday and figure it out.
Maybe you guys just switch every fight, you know, like you do one.
Oh, that's actually not a bad idea.
There you go. And then I'm taking over the reins for Torrent. I ran it as Downpour last event, which is usually Ariel's robot, and now I ran it. And then Donald was just like, "Hey, I don't want to do this again. Here you go. You're Torrent now." So.
Yeah, Corey, are you going to tell us about your 12-pound drone?
Yes. So the robot's called Sweet Tooth. This design I've actually been working on for about 3 years now. It initially started out as a glitch clone. One of the issues that glitch really one of the main issues that it has is the weight distribution for it to drive properly. So I effectively saw that and I made a modified version. It's an X drive Omni, so it can stray front to back. The one secret that makes the robot drive a lot better than glitch is the entire weapon system is on a hinge similar to Monsoon. So by doing that, you're removing the weight distribution of the weapon in relation to the drive. So it makes it effectively its own kind of like element within the robot. So the robot can actually glide around without any issues. What makes Sweet Tooth special in particular, there's a gyro in it that it can recognize what the base, like what's level. So when the robot gets flipped over, the brain automatically flips it to now it's driving reverse. So it can invert itself without me having to do anything special. And this is the plan, though I do have contingencies. It's actually a shuffling Omni. So it will be able to have feet that will be able to strafe around. The biggest thing going into this design was it's a shuffling Omni with a hinged weapon. And to my knowledge, there's never been any robot of that caliber, that design ever anywhere. So I wanted to debut it. Getting the robot physically functioning is key first. Getting the shufflers is second. If I don't get it to the shuffling stage, it does have wheels. I'm not utilizing the shuffler to gain weight. It's going to stay the same as 12 pounds, whether it's wheeled or feeded. But I want to try to make it a little more intricate, just to kind of push what I can physically design. The event is 2.5 weeks away. And I mean, the design of Sweet Tooth effectively was done in about 12 hours with everything done from concept to finalized product. It's going to be very fun. It's not meant to be a meta competitive robot. It's more of to try to break away from the four-wheel drive big vert disc that I'm very well known for with the synthesis DNA. And so I want to show that I can break out of that mold, more or less. I'm very excited.
Dude, I'm excited. This sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been very hard because I'm used to like showing all my designs and whatnot. And so I think I've only shown Mike, and that was it. No one else knows what it looks like. I did have to run the idea by Gil, and Gil was super stoked to hear. He was like, "Yeah, I want to see more Omnis do well." So I hope I can make him proud.
So do I now get to ask very pointed questions for the other 20 questions to spoil it?
Absolutely, if you want to.
It's just going to be, is it this? Yes. Is it this? Yes.
That's the
They're
best way
gonna
to reveal it.
they're gonna say, "How do you know such direct
Just so
questions?"
smart.
I don't think, yeah, because honestly, I don't think we told the rest of the team we were doing this tonight. Matt's gonna be very mad at us as our social media director. He's gonna be like, dude, what? Come on.
That's too funny.
Now the question is, do we keep it a surprise until the episode drops, and then everyone's like, "Wait, there's a Pandemonium episode part of this episode," and then they're gonna say, "Kevin."
Yeah, I kind of like this.
Hey, I'm on board with any of these shenanigans. I helped Corey keep a drone secret for a while. So yeah. Now Kevin and Ariel, having heard about this robot, how are you feeling about it? And both of you are going to be driving a robot in the 12 pounds that isn't your normal robot to drive.
I'm really pumped to see this robot, like Corey's robot. He showed us that's a 3-pounder, right? Your other one. So he has
Yeah.
like something similar to the 3-pound version. And it's awesome. And I'm like, oh, this thing's so cool, and everybody like really loves it on the team. And now he's just like, yeah, well, check this out, 12-pound version. So I'm like super pumped to see this thing. This event's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
I
with
mean,
so many of our bots in the weight classes, it's going to be hard. Wait, were you about to show us?
I
Hold
don't think
on.
it'll work.
I gotta turn the background off. One second.
No.
It's fine. Give me 1 second. Let's see. So here's effectively how big the thing is. I mean, it's
Dude, it's huge.
it's like as big as Synthesis 30. But the cool part is it's only just about 1.25 inches thick. So
That's awesome.
yes.
I'm
And it's
pumped.
purple.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the best
have,
color.
Have to.
Agreed. That is the best color. So
It is the best overture color, in my opinion. Shout out to our sponsors.
It's a nice
yeah,
little plug there. I
shout
enjoy
out to
that.
Overture. for all of your filament needs.
There you go.
So I need to ask you, Ariel, how are you excited to be driving half of a multi? Because I mean, have you ever driven a multi pair before?
I have not. This is my first multi. And what? Is it
I
not?
mean, early Beetlejuice, try not to kill the mini bot. Some
Okay,
of that
that's
skill.
different.
But that'll
That's
play
different.
into this. Like, that is a good
The
skill to
mini
have.
bot was sacrificial with Beetlejuice. I killed the mini bot more than anybody else, I think.
Yeah.
A true multi trying not to hit the other person is going to be fun. When I originally agreed to take on Froggy, it was going to be driving with Kevin with same force. Now I'm going to be driving with Tim. And I fought Tim enough and watched enough of his fights that I think I get his driving style, but it's going to be interesting to see what we do in the box together. So, and that, I
Yeah.
mean, having two new drivers on Battletoads, not having a single original driver is going to be an interesting challenge because neither of us have ever worked on either of these bots either.
They're
So.
simple.
Yeah, and no offense to Donald. Donald's the originator of the torrential. I think seeing Kevin drive Downpour last event, I think that's the most aggressive I've ever seen that robot drive. The fact that you hit Big Ish's chassis, which is a robot that's not meant to get hit in the chassis, that's impressive.
Yeah, that was really fun to drive. I've said it 1,000 times, with the Nightcrawler fight was incredible, but it also showed both me and Donald a bunch of problems with the robot that we still have to figure out how to fix, because right now it can't drive for more than a minute without dying.
Yeah, that is a problem that you want to fix for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, now the weapon's more reliable, but the battery dies.
Yep.
It's always something. Well, in addition to these bots that we've already talked about, there's also going to be 330s. So you will have Overlord there. Jillian's going to have Overlord. Of course, Corey is going to be bringing Synthesis 30. And you're also going to have Light Force, which I am really excited about. Having seen the 3-pound same force, really excited for Light Force. So let's talk about the 30s.
So Light Force is 30-pound Light Force. It is more scaled than Same Force was, because somewhere on the internet I found and dug up Light Force files from a video game, and I took them and put them into CAD and made them work as a robot. It did go to Moto and it went 0-2. It made it to the ring once and then I died to electrical issues. What is she? Oh boy. So I'm really excited to get it out because I have I have figured out some of the issues with it, and I'm really excited to get it back in the ring. I'll see, but it's all gonna fog. It's huge. It's
There you
big.
go.
It's a big robot, and I'm
So-
excited.
So one of the issues that Kevin had was something that Synthesis 30 experimented with. We now run the same weapon ESC.
Yep.
We figured out what settings to have it run properly. So now Kevin can implement it into Light Force. So now that will be one less issue he'll have.
And then I switched drive ESCs. I was trying this and that, and I just did what everybody else does in the 30s, and I put rhinos in it, and I'm hoping for the best. And so far, so good.
Who said that?
Who said what? Rhinos?
Who said what rhinos?
You did, and everybody else on the team. Yeah, sometimes I don't listen. I'm also the robot's ridiculous. It's running a absolutely massive electric skateboard motor in it, 6374, which is way too big, and it's running 12S on the weapon, which is way too high. So it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
As far as Overlord, I'm not sure what Lyndon and Jillian are changing about Overlord. Did they mention to you guys what they might be changing?
So I know that they're getting rid of the aluminum bottom plates. They're tired of things creeping up inside from the bottom and puncturing the batteries. So I know there's talk of I think AR bottom plates. Not much else is changing, I think. I mean, the bot is huge and scary, so
Yeah, you mean they don't want to get tickled from the underside?
not not like Moto. It's almost like the horror movie when the killer comes from behind, just stabs the person, lifts them up. That's what happened at Moto.
Yeah.
And
Corey.
so, the Synthesis 30 that exists today, there was one major issue that I had always overlooked in this last design. So when I had the 16-inch disc, I had to place it proportional to the robot. When I went down in size, effectively, I didn't adjust it. I just moved it down because if you think about 16-inch circle, you move it to 12-inch, you're gonna have to lower where it's center where it spins. If you think about that, it's still sitting in the same place relative to the robot, but it's not reaching in front of the robot 2 inches, short by 2 inches. So what was happening was effectively my robot was losing a lot of the reach that the robot was originally designed for. Looking into the CAD, I realized this was a huge issue. Like when I fought Hades, I could never physically actually hit Hades. Great. Oh, by the way, I think his name is Tom. Great team from Ecuador. I've been chit-chatting with them and they're phenomenal guys. I think it's awesome that people are coming from outside of the country to fight. But basically just everyone that I was fighting, I was noticing I wasn't having those huge hits, except for unless I had them into the weapon, like when I fought Anxiety, they were on the wedge. And then when I fought Colossal Avian, they were on top of the fork, so they were into the weapon. So one of the major changes that I am implementing is I move the weapon forward where it's actually supposed to be. So now it has all the reach that it wants to. I'm taking cues from Emulsifier, Overlord, and a couple other big verts, and I'm just removing the shenanigans. I'm not playing the ground game. I'm not playing any type of feed into the weapon. So when synthesis is in the cage, effectively, I'm going to corral you, and the very next thing you're going to physically see is that disc that's spinning at 250 miles an hour, punching you in the face. So yeah, so I have always tried to lead into the weapon. With this latest version, try to feed it into the weapon, but I've never actually tried to use the weapon as its strength. And so going into May, I'm going to use the weapon as what it was designed for. It's supposed to be the very first thing you encounter. So I think it's awesome that Panda has 30-pounders. It'll be interesting. I don't really want to fight my friends just yet. I'm okay in the bracket. Let's save that for the bracket, but we'll see. I'm very excited. I took off April to kind of give myself a mental break, but watching the stream, it allowed me to both have time with my family, but also be able to kind of build up that spark again, because I felt like it was like, go. Okay, after this event, all right, Sunday, let's try to plan for the next one. So I'm very excited and eager.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's a 0% chance that not at least one panda versus panda 30-pound fight happens. There has to be one.
I think it has to. I don't think, because we take up so we have 3 robots, MIT has 330s. Because of that, I think even in prelims, one of us is going to end up fighting somebody. I hope it's not a rematch, because at Moto, it was my very first fight was Overlord. Late first was Force versus Overlord. I'm like, that's fantastic.
And then I fought Overlord, and Moto's cage is a little smaller than Norwalk's cage. So Overlord being as big as it is, it made it that much more dwarfing. So I mean, by that logic, Kevin, I got to fight you.
No.
but we need to remember now, Synthesis already has qualified. So, and I believe Ares has qualified too. So that's 2 out of I don't know what the count is right now, but that's 2 robots that effectively we can basically knock off the top, hypothetical, if they were to make it to the end.
Right.
Yeah, there's 15 right now.
15.
Yep.
Which is funny because Kevin originally registered for this event because registration was so low. And he just wanted to get a couple fights in and practice and fix some stuff.
Yep.
And then you look at the list now, it's a completely different field.
Yeah, it's a full field. Before it was just like, okay, this is some nice matches. Like, it won't blow up. I was the only panda, and then everybody else was like, wait, and then everybody else was like, wait, and now there's 15 bots. It's almost a full field, and I'm terrified.
So I think because you're doing your Bite Force, mini Bite Force, you're doing what Bite Force does, is you're not trying to have the largest spinner, you're not trying to spin it the fastest, you have a conservative drive, so you're doing everything well, but not the best. So you have an overall very grounded robot. So I think a lot of these spinners that are going to be heavily gyroing, I've seen how you drive same force, and I feel like you're going to effectively drive it very similar to where, okay, there are certain things I can do and there are certain things I can't do, because light force right now effectively is 20 pounds. So it's effectively the next iteration. So it would be the bigger tots, basically. So
Yeah.
I think you have a great shot with this robot, honestly, because even though you haven't driven this one, you've driven what it was prior.
Yeah. Thank you. Also, like you said, it's 20 pounds, so who's going to build another one? Because, battle teams win.
Yeah, there you go. Last question, and I think that a very important one. So how many robots is Team Pandemonium going to qualify at this event?
All of them, of course. All of them.
I say at least one. I think it has to be at least one, so we can keep our streak of qualifying at least one robot per event, because we've done that so far this year.
Who qualified last event? Because I think we broke the streak.
No, we had someone. Emperor qualified.
Oh, right. Yep. So it's been one event because it's Emperor. So
Yeah.
Basics is qualified. But that's the other thing at this event that we're going to. 2 of our bots are already qualified because Basics and Synth 30 have already qualified for the year. So let's just keep it going. You know, at least one of us, there's 9 robots. One of us can qualify, right? Yeah.
I think that's insane how if you went back, say, a year or two ago, where you had the big colleges like WPI was dwarfing everyone. Now you have Panda that's like, okay, of the field, what was it in February or March? We made up 8% of the actual field, and then going into what's the top eight? What's the top 8 called? Prime time. We still made up 8%, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Yep. And then like other Team Pandemonium has just grown so much. It's incredible. And like even so small events like Voxelmania is coming up, RC Excitement, and we make up 22% of that field right now with just beetles.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive what the team has been able to do over just the time that I've been, following and things like that. So it's really exciting stuff. And I'm excited to see what y'all can do in this upcoming event, which will be the next to the last event for a while at NHRL. So I'm sure everybody will get a much needed summer break before we jump back into it. But yeah, any last thoughts or anything like that for May?
I am coming for you, Ryan Duarte, so you better be ready. No, Ryan, I like Ryan. He's an awesome driver, and I always like to smack talk, even though it's all in fun. But coming for you, Ryan. We're gonna get a rematch.
I'm just excited to send it at May and see what happens. The we have a joke right now. Torrent, we're calling it top 8 Torrent because that's as far as it's gotten for the past matches. And I'm really excited to see like if we can just take it over the edge and get it qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Hopefully.
arm wrestle who drives it in finals.
Yeah.
Well, no, because Light Force will qualify and Torrent will qualify. So now it'll be
yeah, there you go. And the Tots while we're at it, they've done it once. They'll do it again.
No, see, I think we don't need any more 30 pounds to qualify because we already have too many, and finals is going to be so hard. We're gonna need extra pit crew, even though our team is big.
Well, I already said it. I want to pull the Jameson going. I want to have the trifecta at finals. So right now I have the 12 and the 30 qualified. In June I had planned on bringing the 3. So I mean, I'm really shooting for the trifecta. I mean, God, if I qualify any more robots outside of that, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, qualifying a lot of robots is both a blessing and a curse. Well, I'm sure you have plenty of capable people on the team, and you're going to be able to handle whatever happens. But yes, if you are watching this, please make sure that you check out the May event because there's just going to be a lot of stuff happening and a lot of great builders and drivers, and it's going to be, I'm sure, a wonderful event as always. But good luck to Team Pandemonium. Lots of robots, lots of chances to qualify. Please make sure that you keep watching, keep supporting combat robotics, and we'll see everybody next time on the show.